Hey everyone, Shin here. So I know it's been a little bit since I came out with the Hamtastic 5.0 video for you guys. I wanted to get that video out for you guys as soon as I could after the patch because I know a lot of you guys enjoy that Hammer Great Sword playstyle, and it's kind of my favorite build, my brainchild that I've had for years now. So I wanted to get that one done and updated ASAP as soon as I could. But that doesn't mean I've forgotten about my other builds. I've already updated my Fractals build. I have never put a build video out on that on the channel, but it's fairly simple. You can find it on the stream channel page. I have, however, done videos on the Sinister build and the Rata Sum build. I have been constrained as far as time has gone recently, but I have managed to get some testing done. This video is about the Rata Sum 2.0, the update on that. The build did make it through, and it's actually a lot stronger than it was before. And the Sinister build is nearly done being tested. I have a little more finalization to go on that, but this video is all about Rata Sum 2.0. So without further ado, I will jump right in. Now, first off, utilities. The build still uses Healing Signet, Balance Stance, and Endure Pain. However, the build no longer uses Berserker Stance, nor does it use Signet of Rage. Now, the build uses Stomp and Rampage for its last two utilities. Jumping into equipment, the build is now a mace sword hammer build rather than an axe sword longbow build. I did some more testing after the changes went through, and this setup works better than the previous for the hybrid nature of the build and what I've been trying to do with it. For the sigils, you're going to want to use Sigil of Debility and Sigil of Hydromancy in the mace and sword, and you will still want to use Sigil of Doom and Sigil of Impact in the hammer. For the rune, it still uses Rune of Rata Sum. It is the namesake of the build, and it is still just as effective, if not more so, since the patch. And the amulet is no longer Celestial, it is now Carrion. Jumping into traits, the build still uses Strength, Defense, and Discipline. Up in Strength, you're going to want to take Peak Performance, Body Blow, and Distracting Strikes. Peak Performance is going to reduce the cooldown and increase the effectiveness of Stomp and Rampage. Body Blow is going to give all of your CCs a bleed and weakness effect whenever they connect and whenever they are successful. And Distracting Strikes, as it did before, will apply 4 stacks of confusion to your target whenever you successfully interrupt them. And with the Mace, Hammer, Stomp, and Rampage, this build has a lot of interrupt potential. And because of the change to Confusion, to where it now does damage over time, and also does extra damage when your target uses a skill, Confusion has gotten a lot more powerful for this build, not even mentioning the extra condition stat from Carrion Amulet. Down in defense, you're going to want to take Shield Master. This is where the Missile Reflection trait from the build's previous iteration went. This trait now also gives you the benefit of a stack of might whenever you block with the mace or sword. For the Master, you're going to want to take Sundering Mace. This is going to give you 5 stacks of vulnerability when you hit targets with your mace that have been launched, knocked back, stunned, or dazed, and that's going to happen a lot with this build. And there is no internal cooldown on this, so you can stack a lot of vulnerability very quickly with just auto attacks on the mace. And finally, just as before, you're going to want to take Cleansing Ire. For the Grandmaster, this is going to give you extra adrenaline for more Skullcracks and Earthshakers, as well as more condition management. Down in Discipline, you're going to want to take Warrior Sprint. This is going to give the build mobility that it did not have before, so you will be able to move between points a bit more quickly and roam a bit more successfully with the build now. For the Master in Discipline, you're going to want to take Brawler's Recovery. This is, again, more condition management. This helps alleviate the issue that the build has with no longer having Berserker Stance. And for the Grandmaster, you have 2 choices. You can either take Merciless Hammer for reduced hammer cooldowns and increases damage on CC targets, or you can take Heightened Focus for quicker application of CC, quicker application of conditions and damage. The choice is yours. They are both viable. They are both equally viable, I would say. It is your choice, comes down to whatever flavor you would rather have. Alright, now as far as how the build plays, it has shifted a little bit, but it is still roughly the same in how it's played, where you should be fighting with it, and whatnot. As for where you want to be fighting with the Rata Sum 2.0, you still want to be on the point or as close to the center of a point as you possibly can get, because the Rata Sum proc is still there. It is more powerful than it was before because poison stacks, and your Sigil of Debility has increased the duration of the weakness on the Rata Sum proc, as well as all of the other skills that apply weakness. You don't have any major mobility skills, so again, it can't be used necessarily for full-on roaming, like say a hammer greatsword build, but it is still better for moving between points. You can feel free to move between points and rotate as your team needs. The build, as far as what's different from before, the build is more focused around interrupts and applying confusion and body blow procs than it is just raw condition and power damage like it was with the axe and longbow. You're going to want to be aiming to interrupt your opponents. You're going to be wanting to displace them, stun them, do whatever you can with your mace, hammer, stomp, and rampage to keep them CC'd and keep applying confusion stacks and body blow stacks, because that weakness and bleeding and confusion will eventually stack up to very high numbers as far as the damage goes, and you can shut down opponents very quickly. The build still retains its hybrid nature, and it still retains the projectile reflex on the blocks, so any ranged attackers that are going to be throwing effects at you from far, you will have 2 relatively short cooldown blocks to reflect those abilities right back at them. The damage is still relatively split between power and Condi. You will be doing a lot of damage with your confusion and bleeds, as I mentioned before, but you will also be hitting very hard with your normal attacks, such as the mace auto attack string, the hammer attack, earthshaker, rampage, stomp. All of these will hit fairly hard just in their own right, and carrying amulet is going to help that immensely. You don't necessarily need to crit with this build. Nothing really relies on critting. It's all just pure hits and conditions, so you don't necessarily need to worry about having a low critical chance with carrying amulet. Alright, and that should wrap up the update to the Rata Sum build for you guys. I know I made this a bit quicker. I want to get this video out fairly quickly. I kind of did a dry run on the audio with a few stops here and there, so I just wanted to get this out as soon as I could. It, again, has been a little while since I had the previous build update video out for you guys. I do want to have the Sinister build updated for you guys soon as well. I need to finish some testing on that, but hopefully I'll have that out for you guys within the next couple weeks. And with that, hopefully you enjoyed the video, the quick update. Hopefully you enjoy the build now with this new flavor. The old version of Rata Sum is not quite as powerful as it used to be. There are probably some variations of it that will still make it work with the axe, sword, and longbow. I personally prefer this new version over the previous version because you have a lot more control over your opponent, and it really taps into that hybrid power Condi feel that I was going for with the build before. So I'm going to stick with this version. If you want to try making an axe bow version of the Rata Sum build in the new version of the traits and whatnot, by all means go for it, but I would highly advise at least trying out the new version. It's a lot of fun to skullcrap people and see a lot of conditions show up. So with that, thanks for watching, guys. I will see you in the next video or around the stream. Take care, everyone.